What was the course education creation space like before Egghead? Like, was it hard to release courses?
I mean, I think releasing a good course has always been hard, and you can take that back as far as you want. Not to speak for the ancient Greeks, but I would suspect that they, had some struggles when they were coming up with a new curriculum or whatever. And then, like when we started doing this, I've been doing this for a long time. So when I first started doing this was 30-ish years ago with like macromedia authorware and building instructional content. And I was a graphic designer at the time. I wasn't doing the programming side of it, but we were doing like aircraft maintenance production, and it would just, there'd be a lot that would go into that. And as technology has improved, so has the tools around what it takes to put together some sort of string of courses. And obviously that when we were doing that was it wasn't pre-internet, but it was basically pre-internet, like 1998 or so. And that sort of thing is, that was meant to be like delivered on a CD-ROM, like Macromedia Dreamweaver and those different things that we had back then, where you would deliver instructional content on the CD-ROM. And now, obviously we're doing it on the internet, and that introduces new problems. And I think about at the time when we were building Egghead, there wasn't a lot of optionality. YouTube at the time, I think they were coming up with some, it was still relatively young. They were coming up with ways to monetize it before you could even make any money on YouTube. Like now it's totally different because people can make a living on YouTube, and that's great. I'm still pretty disappointed in like how, like what it takes to put a course online, and like what we've built is a pretty complex apparatus, and the kind of self-serve, non-technical, like people that don't have the ability to build their own entire platform are kind of left with pretty mediocre options, in my opinion. Though they're better than they were for sure 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think like what you're teaching matters a lot. So like in a technical world where you have like code that needs to run or execute or be previewed or something, there are a lot of people will just like do videos. Some people will just do like static web pages, and you get like the more interactive components. What do you think are like the parts that make a good, successful like technical course, especially like in the early days, and sort of like how you think about it now?
We were just having this conversation recently where I think like the production value is something that people put a lot of thought into. I have like an elaborate lights and camera, and I'd say a thoughtful background. It's actually just my office, but there's a lot put into that, and a lot of emphasis on that, and there's a lot like where people think about that. But at the end of the day, what people really want is good content that they can learn from, and they can take ideas from, that they can apply in their actual life. And the production value almost ends up being more for the creator in a lot of ways, like just to like, make us look and sound our best, right? Like we all want to do that, and we want to present our best. But like from a learner perspective, there's like a threshold where none of that actually matters if the content is really good. And I'm often frustrated by, how a thing is presented, but I'll still like suffer through it to consume the information, because if it's the only way I can get that information, then I'll go ahead and live through that. And that's like, try not to, be a hater on people that are presenting instructional content in certain ways, but like in my heart, I hate it that they have to do that they don't have an easy way that to present it in a way that's nicer. And, like part of what we do is trying to, I like to work, I call it visible source, because I don't actually like intend to support people that want to like try to use our stuff, but I like to keep it open so people can take those ideas and run with them and use that as reference. Cause I really like personally love to learn that way. I'm not much of a like sit down and watch a bunch of videos type of person. I'm kind of a hands-on person. So give me some source code, and I'm going to be in there and loving it. So that's one of the reasons we work the way we do, is so that people can have some opportunity there to kind of push it forward. And that's actually something we've seen with Egghead, is that people have taken those ideas, and we have a site, howtoegghead.com. And I see those ideas in the developer education space, and even beyond. A lot of the stuff that we kind of, I say it's their short screencast for developers that hate watching long, boring videos. And, like that kind of ethos that like, hey, we don't have to ramble on, we can keep it short, and present, like get right to the heart of what we're talking about. I love seeing those ideas carried over outside of our space by other instructors.
So Egghead is like an enormous platform now. I just looked it up, and you guys have almost 7,000 different courses on there, which is just uh, crazy to start out with. But what led you to Egghead? And then how did you scale it to like this massive amount of videos and like instructors and people?
So John was making videos. John Lindquist was making Angular videos, and at the time, I thought they were great. Right, he was making them, and they were on YouTube. And I was taking Amy Hoy's 30 by 500 course, which is still fantastic, and I recommend it to anybody that wants to build products and build a business in an ethical, sustainable sort of way. It's still a big influence on me. But John was making these videos, and I was like trying to figure out what I wanted to do in terms of some sort of product, because that was always my goal as a developer. I started doing this so that I could figure out some sort of product to build. And I was like, man, I think I can sell these videos. And John, he was very skeptical at first. And I was like, no, really, I can't. Just let me try. And we did. And people, gobbled them up. And then almost immediately I was like, what if we added additional instructors to this and paid them, royalties based on how much that people watched the videos. So we tried that, and people, started subscribing. And, just kind of one thing led to another. And as it turned out, like the bringing in instructors, that's really a difficult thing to do. Generally speaking, getting other people to do things is really difficult. And it's also really difficult when all you're asking them to do is like work a second job, or maybe more for a lot of people. And that's, that's what we offer. It's like, oh, well, you're really busy. You're really smart. Your work is very intellectually draining. But when you get home, wouldn't you like to sit down and do something that was incredibly hard and uncomfortable and, record these videos? Because it's not easy. Like if you have ever tried to do screencasting or recording, it's frustrating. You get actual stage fright when you're literally just sitting in your home talking into a microphone and it doesn't make any sense, but your body says otherwise. It's like, my brain is rebelling against me. It's technically difficult. You're doing take after take, and a 2-minute video can take you 3 hours when you first get started. So it's like, how do we get through that process? We've had several hundred instructors at this point, and we're very good at that, actually. Like that's something that is a core competency of us as an organization, is bringing people in that don't have much experience and trying to remove the friction from their experience in terms of becoming educators. And it's been fantastic. What the coolest side effect is seeing people that are relatively early in their careers start doing this and just watch the hockey stick of growth in terms of their career, because there might be better ways. I don't know. One of the best ways that I've seen to elevate yourself as a developer and get kind of recognition and kind of skip the line, so to speak, is to get out there and educate and show people the way. And people will see that, and you'll get a bunch of low effort content out of it. And we're just absolutely, I guess now we're even more deluged with low effort content now that people can be like, generate me an article. But that isn't it, right? That isn't it. Like people recognize the effort and the actual, communication and fundamentally the struggle that goes into creating this thing, and it's evident in the result. And that works really, really well. And there's not a lot of ways to shortcut it. But you can make it smoother, and you can, learn from the basic mistakes of how to do this and how to do it quality without having to experiment and iterate over time. You can kind of jump to hey, let's start making high quality stuff. And if you go into if you go into YouTube, one of the it's kind of fun to go into popular people, content producers on YouTube, and go all the way back to the beginning of their channel and see the evolution of production value and content quality and all that fun stuff is really kind of interesting. And, that's what we help people do a lot of times, is skip past some of that.
Yeah, definitely is fun to go back and look at creators' old stuff. Like Marquez Brownlee as a 14-year-old kid reviewing technology.
Yeah, for sure. And you can see that all over the place. And it's a practice thing for sure. And then eventually you get to where that 2-minute screencast takes 10 minutes instead of 3 hours. And it's like a practice skill. And like anything, right? It is difficult to do, and you have to practice. But once you get good at it, now you have something that's really, truly a valuable skill, even beyond education. Getting down and being able to record your screen and teach people stuff is, frankly, just like firing off a video to a coworker that unlock something, especially when we're in this kind of age of remote work. It's like a superpower.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of journeys, so when you and John had started Egghead, it was like you'd left your job, you're like doing this, it's like I'm going to try to turn this into a product, and it's been very successful. How was it like in those early days? Is like, so this is a completely bootstrapped company that you sort of built, is that true? Like what was that journey like, and how long was it until you like felt pretty comfortable, like, okay, this is the thing, I'm in my lane, I'm like doing the thing that I want to do?
I don't know if I have reached the like satiation and comfort in my life as far as that goes, but it was pretty quick actually. I was working as a consultant and kind of flipped over to doing training because it was Angular JS at the time, and it was notoriously difficult to learn with transclusion and all the rest of the new words that people had to learn. But it was also huge in enterprises, so I was doing a lot of on-site training to help that transition. And then our like initial growth was huge. We've since kind of not only plateaued but tapered off on that side of the business, and that's been an interesting journey as well. As like when you like kind of a parabola of revenue growth has been just a challenge to even think about. But that's also because of like splitting efforts and thinking about other problems as well. But yeah, it was it was within 6 months where John and I were both able to kind of focus on Egghead and pursue it full time. And then like we grew staff, and it was a Rails app at the time. Still is in a lot of respects, mostly the accounting. What I didn't expect actually was that platform perspective, what we're actually building is accounting software, like a CMS also, but like the accounting back end is what it turned out being. And I've had to learn more about that space than I frankly ever would have thought I would have wanted to, or definitely been interested in. It wasn't, my sort of aspirational dream of mine to build accounting software, but that's what you have to do because like we handle the money. That's one of the most difficult aspects of it, is like handling the commerce and handling customer support and doing all that stuff is another huge source of friction to anybody that wants to put it out there and make a little money, and then also like elevate your profile.